This episode is brought to you by my book, The Skeptical Buddha, The Tao of Science, a coffee table-style book that discusses the history of Eastern philosophy and where it complements and diverges from science and skepticism. More about this at the end of the video. Welcome to After School Democracy, the podcast that attempts to fill in the gaps you almost certainly missed in school about politics, economics, and history. The internet is abuzz with ideas around the genre of hope, that is, solarpunk, that we can use to paint a possible future where we live in harmony with the Earth instead of against it. Sadly, a lot of corporate interests have also added their spin on things as a form of greenwashing that will not work if we want to live sustainably in nature. So first we will talk about what solarpunk isn't, and then what it actually is. Solarpunk is not personal electric cars, battery buses, or lithium batteries for all. Solarpunk is lithium batteries and personal cars used sparingly and only when and where essential. Lithium mining is going to be the new mega polluter and slave creator unless we act now. We can do this via trolleys and trolley buses. These use electric wires with no batteries at all. This makes them lighter, cheaper, and can carry more people. Trolley buses can have small batteries that get people to the last mile, where they can come back to the trolley grid and recharge as they continue their deliveries. Lithium batteries are still much cleaner than the internal combustion engine, but that is a really low bar. We can't trade one ecological disaster for another. It's estimated that at current technology, the US would only be able to have 1/4 the number of cars it currently has and not have a drastic impact on ecosystems, and the rest of the planet wants EVs as well, but have not been able to afford them until now. New battery tech will hopefully increase this cap, but we can't bank on it right now. Solarpunk is also electric high-speed trains. These can replace the current diesel trains in continental flights very easily, and also require no or very small batteries. Solarpunk is also protected bike highways and throughways, as well as mass theft-reducing bike parking everywhere. If the infrastructure is there and the public transit is set up for it, bikes have a knock-on effect to boost the use of public transit to get to the last mile. It's estimated that cities could shut down every 4th street to be just for bikes and walking with crossing priorities for them. This would drastically drop costs of road repairs as a bike weighs pretty much nothing, and if people shifted to biking and public transit, the drivers would barely notice the reduced number of streets because of the reduced number of cars. For every dollar you spend on your car, the government spends over $8 of your tax money on infrastructure. For every dollar you spend on biking or walking, the infrastructure the government has to spend is less than $1 of your tax money. It would also cut down on smog, pollution, and boost the amount of local retail sales because there would be streets to go to where you can walk without fear of getting hit by a car. People love going to Europe and even Disneyland because of its walkability and public transit, but people don't get to experience that nearly anywhere in North America. Where bike-only streets intersect, we would have what are called superblocks that are safe places to be and just enjoy without exhaust, noise, and fear of getting hit by a car. Better health, less pollution, more localized neighborhoods, more community interaction, reduced loneliness, less accidents, more safety. An e-bike has 1/200th the carbon footprint of an electric car of its lifetime, and a cargo bike has around 1/160th footprint that of an electric car, even lower the more you pedal. Solarpunk is not building large concrete brutalistic skyscrapers with plants all over them. It's also not skyscrapers converted into farms. It turns out the moisture needed to grow plants like this is terrible for large concrete buildings and skyscrapers. Solarpunk is no single-family zone suburbs and mixed-use buildings everywhere. This would increase density and walkability. It would also increase the tax density to pay for the roads. Urban folk tend to subsidize the suburbs' utilities because all the roads cost the same, and suburbs use way more of it per person. 3 to 6 story block buildings are some of the most efficient buildings due to reduced heat loss. Anything more than that, the cost to maintain and create things like escape routes in fires begin to waste more money. It also requires heavier load-bearing steel and concrete, which are massive polluters. In smaller buildings, sustainable hempcrete, experimental fungal mycelia, and bamboo can be used to have superior features. The larger the buildings over a certain size, the more useless these products are. Creating a neighborhood of multi-use 3 to 6 story block buildings can fit way more than a bunch of single-family homes and some skyscrapers, both being incredibly carbon intensive. Solarpunk is replacing most state and local taxes with land taxes, as the Georgists called for. All infrastructure costs are dependent on land size use. period. The further away things get, the more tax money has to be spent with little return. The more spread out people are, the less tax base per foot of infrastructure is available, and they have to get it from somewhere, usually from urban folks who will never get to see the benefits of the suburbs. The suburbs are an unsustainable Ponzi scheme and a great way to transfer wealth from the poor to the rich. Arable land in use and people with a lot of land that make that land public to everyone should be tax exempt from it, encouraging more green space and farmland. It will ensure there is more efficient housing, trips are shorter, and land and housing doesn't sit unused and hoarded to make the housing and land prices go up. Solarpunk is also ending large lawns and lawn equipment use. Lawn equipment has nearly no regulation and produces just as many greenhouse gases in the US as cars. Solarpunk is also more public green spaces to reverse urban heating and improve mental health. Food forest and permablitzing to allow more local sustainable community gardens and food production. Less food transportation, more community engagement. Every city should treat trees and food gardens and forests as important as water, electrical, and sewer, especially as the world heats up and the heat island effect makes neighborhoods hotter and hotter, requiring more air conditioning to survive. Solarpunk is farms and greenhouses replacing suburbs for short transports to cities. The suburbs are actually often kicking farmers off their land because one can make a lot more off of building suburban housing than they can farming. This is not only devastating to our farmers, but also increases the distance and carbon footprint it has to take to get into cities and feed 80% of the population. Solarpunk is not a corporate-owned electrical grid. It's also not the rugged individual living off the grid with a battery and solar panels, or cramming solar panels everywhere. Solarpunk is solar panels, wind farms, geothermal, tidal, and at least temporarily, nuclear. Getting to carbon neutral to carbon negative must be the highest priority. Nuclear kills less people than even solar does due to falls from roof insulation. However, getting them ramped up beyond newer mass-produced mini-reactors might not be that useful for most people. Hydropower can be used, but must be paired with environmental impact analysis and can also be used as water storage. Solarpunk is community or municipal-owned microgrids set up to ensure the most efficient energy use. Solarpunk is not hydrogen used in personal vehicles. 96% of all hydrogen today uses massive levels of heat to be created efficiently, so most of it is produced by coal. In other words, hydrogen is just greenwashed coal. It's also likely to leak from microfractures, so using it in cars is not really very practical. However, Solarpunk is hydrogen, steel, and cement production. Pink hydrogen, or nuclear, geothermal hydrogen, and white hydrogen, or hydrogen trapped underground, are solarpunk. When everything is fully electric, or we figure out ways to boost efficiency of electrolysis, then green hydrogen will also be solarpunk. Solarpunk is not spending and consuming the same today from giant corporations just made with green energy. Solarpunk is induction cooking. There's nothing good about using gas to cook with, period. Higher asthma rates and poisoning, more carbon, and higher chances of fires. The main problem with gas cooking is it requires piping to homes, which will then cause people to use gas for heating and utilities for 50 to 100 more years, which ensures climate disaster. Solarpunk is reuse and repair network and community spaces. This will reduce the level of needed consumption. Thrift stores need to become nonprofit makerspaces and community centers, community owned and operated. Solarpunk is decentralized social media and cloud storage, many times using old parts that would have been sent to a landfill. Servers and cloud storage can be run on really old processors, but it requires a network of them to make them work. Solarpunk is planned community co-housing to reduce the need for everyone to own one of everything and collaborate together to ensure the community is sustainable and safe. Solarpunk is not working the 40-hour week. Everything we beat ourselves up about claiming we used to do was only possible when one member of the family worked 40 hours a week. Now, both adult family members have to work 40 hours a week if they're lucky to get the basics of a middle-class lifestyle, and then have barely any time or energy to do the green alternative that takes a lot more time and energy. Solarpunk is less working for corporations, gardening, canning, recycling, repairing, reusing, engaging in community decisions, sharing with each other, driving less, taking longer to get to work with e-bikes or other forms of transit, all require more free time away from that workspace. The only way to be more green is to work less for our corporate masters while working more for the planet. Solarpunk is also income equality to fund all these things and political equality to make these things actually happen. Without these, solarpunk is a pipe dream that will never happen, and we will be stuck in a cyberpunk dystopia. This episode is brought to you by The Skeptical Buddha, The Tao of Science, my book, which is a thoughtful discourse on Eastern philosophy and how it helped birth ideas required for science and skepticism and the way it fell behind in the face of new evidence. This book discusses the long history of both philosophies as well as the tenets and variations within the varying sects, along with psychology and our own natural biases. It discusses how to counter our natural biases using science and the underlying concepts of meditation and mindfulness, a more complex understanding of how science operates than most of the public understands, and why it is the best tool we have to discover truth and reality, as well as philosophical ideas we might embrace as technology progresses. The material is packaged in a way that the average person can understand, with rich illustrations to draw the reader in and feel at peace. So as always, thank you all for watching this as a video or listening to this as a podcast, which I'm sure was completely uncontroversial to anyone, especially to the YouTube monetization team. So if you found this useful, please donate to my Patreon. Just a reminder that I'm Anubis2814 on YouTube, and I have almost 700 videos on my channel that I've made over the past 11 years on religion, science, psychology, and politics. Please go check them out, and if your site has the option, like, rate, review, and comment. A special thanks goes out to Kendall Copperberg, Mylon Mia, Ogrel, Elias Garcia Guevara, and Joe Taylor for their $10 or more Wapawet level donations. I'm always humbled by the fact that they find my work worth funding and worth driving me forward. Thank you all. Please consider donating to my work if you can, and thank you all for listening.